NATO allies are discussing whether and how to have a tougher response to airspace incursions, which they've experienced in increasing numbers over the last month or so. One of the voices that will be closely listened to in this debate, that of Estonia, which saw 3 Russian MiG jets fly around its airspace for 12 minutes, an unprecedented provocation. Joining me now, Estonian Prime Minister Kristen Michal. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, for joining DW.
Thank you.
So we have just learned, literally in the last few minutes, that the European Parliament has passed a resolution actually calling for a stronger response among EU countries to these provocations into European airspace. So while, of course, you don't have all the details, what is your initial response to hearing that the European Parliament has issued this statement?
I would count it as a support to Baltics, Poland, everybody in Europe and NATO, because to be honest, for us, NATO is working well, because in Poland, NATO probably for the first time shot down something in the airspace, so in our airspace also. And Finns were following the MiGs, which came into our airspace for 12 minutes, and Italians who are in rotation here in air policing, they met with the most modern airplanes there is, with F-35s, Russians. So I would say NATO is working, and the European Parliament and all the allies, everybody supporting us, it's like overwhelming, and it feels us that, for us it feels that we are supported.
It does. Do you feel like you're supported enough from Brussels anyway?
Not only Brussels, because once we invoked the Article 4, I would say that starting from Baltics, Nordics, all over Europe, and up to President Trump, who has said repeatedly after that if needed, the states will protect Poland and Baltics. So the messages have been overwhelming, and I would say that the message is quite strong. NATO is working, chain of command, all the procedures are there. So yes, we feel that NATO is working and our allies are backing us.
So I did want to go into that in more detail. How comfortable are you right now? You said that you feel politically that you're backed, but how comfortable are you with, for example, the rules of engagement? Of course, they're classified, but we discuss them a lot nonetheless. Do you feel confident now that the pilots who are in the, what is now air policing or working in Eastern Sentry, that they do have all the permissions, all the legal authority that they would need to, in the case of the MiGs, for example, shoot one of these planes down if it was felt that Estonian citizens were in danger?
I have confidence in NATO procedures, yes, to be very short, but a little bit longer explanation would be that each time there's a certain determination and a certain assessment that what is the intention of everybody violating our airspace, what is the direction, weaponry, and so on. So this is for each time to assess by the pilots and everybody in NATO. So I would say that everything is in place and it's working.
But some of your citizens have said we should shoot it down. Even some people in the government have suggested that next time, if things continue like this, you might shoot it down. Of course, Estonia doesn't have the capacity itself. You are reliant for air defense on NATO. Do you feel that your population would want to see one of these jets shot down if they are so bold as to fly around for more than 10 minutes?
This is not like an opinion poll, to be honest, because the problem is still Russia and Putin, and Russia who's delivering drones to Poland's airspace and attacking Ukraine and also being in our airspace. So each time and on each occasion there will be an assessment, what it means, what is the intention of this event. And as we saw in Poland, the drones were shot down. So NATO works, the chain of command, the procedures are there. So, but this won't be like opinion poll at the moment that shall we shoot down these planes. This is for NATO command to assess that what is the intention and so on.
But certainly this is a bigger escalation because you have had incursions. There have been NATO scrambles for years. This time the pilots, according to Estonia's own reports, were smiling and waving at the escorting jets. Yeah. They clearly knew, at least according to Estonia, they knew they were not supposed to be in this airspace. There's still not an official assessment of whether it was just an accident, but I watched your foreign minister at the United Nations, I watched his presentation, saw the radar coordinates, all of these things. There's no question in your minds that this was no accident. So what did they need to do for 12 minutes? I mean, they're obviously trying to stir up Estonia.
I would say that yes, the assessment you are giving is correct, that they knew that they had to leave our airspace and they were still there. So that is like, I would say, Russian usual negligence or bad will, because as you say that Russians step on different NATO countries and European countries' borders in airspace and also different, and they have only one message for us to talk about it and for our public and everybody to think about, they are in our borders. Let's not talk about Ukraine. Let's talk about our borders. Let's not give anything to Ukraine. We need it here. So this is like the game Putin and Russia is playing. So right now we are on that field. We are talking about our borders, but we are saying nothing about Ukraine, but the main idea is to pressure Russia, get the cash out of their hands and pressure them in Ukraine.
So you think that this is working?
No.
So you don't think so? So, no. I mean, there's been no reduction in support, at least among the Baltic states, the frontline countries. But do you think this did sort of move the public attention? Because after this came the drones in Denmark. I was there reporting on the drone incursions there. This occupied all of the public space, and we didn't talk as much about Ukraine. So does this work?
Exactly. It maybe works in news for 5 minutes or 15 minutes, it's the news span, but you know that better than I do. But if we would look at messages given, the first one is that NATO is working, European Union, every ally, we are strong together, and we are resolved, and also the message is that Russia is the problem, not anybody else. So after that, the focus should be exactly where it should be. Getting Russia out of Ukraine, getting the, let's say, money out of the hands. Because if we would look out this window, we probably would almost see the shadow fleet going in our Baltic seas. So, for example, it's a little bit less than half of Russia's war chest is going through our seas. This is the fresh cash coming to Putin to wage war against NATO, Europe, and Ukraine. Why?
Possibly providing launch pads for the drones as well.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. So the wisest thing would be that to cut these kind of lines with shadow fleets and so on, because I have never read about dictators waging war for a long time without the money. Nobody can wage the war without the money. If you take the money away from Putin, he won't be able to wage the war.
So I want to talk about what you think should be done now. Again, we'll stay on the eastern flank for the moment. So now you've got Eastern Sentry. The European Commission is talking about eastern flank support, drone wall. I know that's a controversial term, whatever you want to call it. Further drone defenses. There's new reporting that could include armed drones as part of a bolstered defense. What would you like to see happen? What would Estonia like?
If we look at the NATO capabilities, I would say that the Eastern Sentry is absolutely on point. Secretary General Mark Rutte has announced it with SECUR. And I would say that having additional capabilities here is probably the best answer to Russia. It's also publicly said that Italians will have the SAM-T systems stay here for a longer time. That is the first thing. Second thing probably would be to pressure Russia where it hurts. So coming back once again to Shadow Fleet, for not buying energy from Russia, because for me it's still like a big oxymoron. Why Europe is buying different goods, different commodities, energy from Russia, and at the same time we are gathering money to support Ukraine against Russia, from which we are buying commodities. So the pressure should be there, and also keeping strong transatlantic alliance with the States. So if the pressure will go this way, probably Russia will have to give up sooner or later.
Give up the war?
Yeah, hopefully.
And what about Estonia's own plans? You don't have fighter jets, but I understand that that is something you might think about. I mean, you're spending a lot of your GDP, a huge amount of your GDP on defense, but at the moment you've had only ground-based air defense. Are you looking at possibly changing that mix?
It depends on the military assessment, probably, because we are developing our capabilities according to NATO's defense plans. Every country has them. And you are right, absolutely, because next year our investment in defense will be 5% of our GDP. If anybody looking at the TV thinks it's easy, I would say it's probably the hardest decision the country has to make. Because
a politician too.
A politician too, because even though everybody understands the need, but you have to raise taxes for that and also make public sector cuts. And to be honest, they are not very popular. So you probably can understand that this is a very tough, but it's the price. Once you are a small country, you want to live in peace, you want your children to live in peace, to keep the border strong, so you have to invest in defense. But the planes and everything else depends on the military assessment and NATO defense plans.
But if you also want to be able to take national decisions that could cover any airspace necessity, any airspace provocation, you can't have only ground-based defense, correct?
So and so. I would say that also NATO is a collective defense organization, so that means that we have the same procedures as whole, that we depend on each other. We had, for example, also we had at this spring we had this kind of desynchronization of our energy grids from the Russia. All the Baltics were synchronized with Russia previously, but now we're synced with Central European grids. And at that moment, we needed NATO. And I called Mark Rutte, Alexander Stubb called also Mark Rutte, and we had this kind of enhanced vigilance action on the sea, Baltic Sentry, ships on the sea protecting our critical infrastructure. So I would say that we feel that NATO is working, and we don't have any separate plans like saying that we should have plans when NATO is not working. NATO is our plan, and NATO is working good.
So you're comfortable with the situation as it is?
Yeah, because I was also in Hague at the NATO Stop Summit, and Trump was also there and saying that as he sees that Europe is willing to contribute more to the defense, and I understand his message, and I have also the same opinion, we should contribute more to the defense. It's not easy, but it's necessity. So he said that he is also committed to NATO and Article 5. So for us, the NATO is working absolutely well.
He also said that NATO should shoot down the planes if they come in. He said that it was a very quick response, and he didn't exactly follow it up with any very strong support. But do you take that at its word? That
the message was very strong, and probably to everybody's liking around here. So, but
so you're going with that.
It pretty much once again coming back to the procedures. It depends on the intent, direction, weaponry, and so on.
Former Estonian President Toomas Ilves says that he is afraid it will take a mass casualty event before NATO would be willing to go so far as to shoot down a jet on an incursion.
We don't know, to be honest, because as acting Prime Minister, I would say that we already shot down different drones in Poland. So I would say that NATO has the capabilities and also the chain of command to shoot something down. So in NATO's airspace. So it once again depends on the intentions of planes in NATO airspace.
But the Baltics and Poland also have been saying for years that you needed these built-up defenses, including against drones specifically. So it's one more of those situations where the Baltics are saying, we were right and you didn't listen. So now you are years behind, whereas Russia has been building up these capabilities to use against Ukraine that could just as easily be turned against NATO and EU countries. So aren't you concerned that you're very far behind in developing your drone industries and even in cooperating with the Ukrainians?
So and so. I would say that yes. I would say that my assessment is also the same as whole Europe's assessment, that Russia is like a big and very advanced in capability in numbers, but not essentially in high-tech areas. But with Ukraine, We are helping right now Ukraine, but Ukraine is also helping already Europe to assess what are the drones and new technologies needed, because I would say that if you look at the innovation cycle in ordinary economics and, for example, in drone production, weaponry production, it's, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and so on. But if you look at in conflict zone, for example, or in Ukraine, it's 2 months, 3 months, so on. So I would say that as helping Ukraine, Ukraine is helping Europe back, because we will have at certain moments their intellectual property and expertise to counter Russia if needed. So we are not behind in knowledge, probably also not technologically, and especially not in economic capacities, because Europe is so much larger than Russia ever is. But in numbers and blunt technology, Russia probably is producing many, many times more than we right now. But I would say in 3, 5, 7 years, Europe will be a project with arms and capabilities, defense industry also, because Europe was a project of peace without arms, and it will be a project with arms. Peace, project for peace with arms.
Well, when you hear Ursula von der Leyen speaking these days, she speaks a lot about drones and about weapons and about financing weapons.
This is very, very real time, because to be honest, I would say that probably half of Europe wouldn't dream of the moment that they will be talking about drones in civilian airspace in next 6 months or something like that. This is like, you don't know what is the reason, who is playing with them, why is that so, but usually I'm saying that usually that when things happen, this kind of things, sometimes or more than often, sometimes the steps lead back to Russia.
So this was a good look into the future. Just one final question, because we are a German public broadcaster. What have you made of Angela Merkel's comments in recent days, blaming Baltics for not and wishing to speak to Vladimir Putin? This cannot be welcome words here.
No, they are not. You are very straightforward. You are very, very right. Because to be honest, the politeness, everybody in Europe thinks that you should be polite to Putin. This is weakness in Russia. This is interpreted as a weakness. When you call, you ask something from Russia, they say, okay, they are weak, we will pressure more. Only thing that helps against Russia is resolution, being on your line, standing on your ground, and being strong and united. So Angela Merkel's words that Baltics and Poland were stopping her to having deals with Putin. Come on, we have Nord Streams which are blown up, so on, so on. What has it helped? Nothing. So I would say that everybody is free to write their own memoirs. But here, yes, these kind of words do not resonate very well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister.
Yeah.